award-winning poet, playwright, artist, actor, activist, and author, the multi-hyphenate John Collins sits down with Rahim Brazil of The Rahim Brazil Show to discuss his latest work, God Ain't Call Me Fag.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Rahim Brazil. We're back. Y'all know what time it is, man. It's grind time here on Hip Hop Joint Rap Radio. It's that time that I've been getting you guys prepared for. We got the author of God Ain't Call Me Fag, author John Collins in the building, straight from Detroit by way of ATL, I may say now. What's going on, man?
What up, though?
How you feeling?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You know what? It's a pleasure to have you. I'm interested. And let me go ahead and pull up my chair and get me comfortable. Because I'm interested in this book. Now, I read a little of your bio and things like that. God Ain't Call Me Fag. Why that title?
Why not?
Yeah. Well, you said, why not?
It's time out for diplomatic language, so I wanted something that was going to be hard-hitting, that was going to, spark that conversation of God versus man again. So it was another one of those type of dialogues that I wanted to set up.
Right,
so.
Right. In your mind, I got a question. How do you think God feels about homosexuality?
I don't think he feels any different from it than heterosexuality. It's we're a creation, an extension of who he is. So I don't feel that he looks at us any different than he does any other thing that he's created. So
right. So in writing this book, what was the inspiration for this? And did it start here?
So this book, it's been a 5-year process. So yes, I did start this book when I first moved here to Atlanta. It started with me doing a forum that I did here in Atlanta. Maybe I stopped it a couple years ago. It was called John Collins Presents, and I would do a monthly forum where I would invite guys out to actually sit down, and it would be gay men. We would sit down and we would just talk about a subject that I would bring to their attention that affects us, whether that be sex, HIV, religion, things of that nature.
Right.
And I would just center questions around that topic. That energy that I collected in those forums kind of mirrored, a lot of the hurt and angst that I was feeling, concerning my own sexuality and, my role in the community as a black man, and just as a man in general.
Right.
So I ended up asking my dad, a question one day. I said, Pops, if the Bible is the inherent written word of God written by man, why hasn't there been anyone else to step up to the plate and write an extension of what they're going through, their trials, or what, particular generations or decades are going through this day and age to add to those collection of work that are present in the Bible?
Right.
He didn't have an answer for me. And so I began to think about that. What does that look like? What does our relationship fully look like to God?
Right.
You don't have any stories where people actually talk about the conversations that they have with God, the questions that they bring up, life experiences in religion, in living in your truth. So that's where this came about.
Okay. How did you feel when he could not answer that question?
I smiled and I was good.
Yeah.
I was glad he didn't have an answer for me. And I knew he wouldn't. Because who does have that answer? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I figured that maybe preachers and things of that nature, maybe their sermons are extensions of what that looks like. So.
All right. So in your experience, what has been and speaking to the different males, in your experience, what has been kind of like the hardest thing for the homosexual male? Is it religion? Is it the sex? Is it the HIV? What has been the core thing that has been, you know what I'm saying?
Loving themselves. Getting to a place of actually looking at yourself and like, wow, I do matter. I am, a product of God.
A product of love. That's a product of love. Because I always say, behind a lot of our hurt, especially for us African Americans, religion has been the basis of that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us who are tied to the church and have been hurt by church people.
That's your inauguration into the black community, if you will. Yeah.
So, and especially when it comes to sexuality, we all know, like, even like in my days of growing up, and I'm not that old, but I know that it was just not something that you would speak of or do, or even, you know what I'm saying, it was something that you hid because of that whole element of you're going to hell, or, you know, God don't love you because of this, and you're an abomination, and things like that. And some of that still plays too and true today. But how is this book going to help somebody that may be dealing with that today?
So this book, you know, I speak about being bullied in church. I speak about suicide attempts on your own life. I speak about rape. I speak about what it's like to fall in love. I speak about that first crush. I speak about all that. So I want the reader to live through, you know, I present it in a way that it's, you know, I use myself as a muse. I present these different topics or subject matter that's important to us as black gay men that we go through in a way that you'll get the intellectual side of it, you'll get the ratchet side, you'll get that poetic side, to somehow whatever method in this book that I want to use to get your attention, you're going to relate to something in it, and actually live your experience out through this book. So I wanted to flush out any hurt, any disdain that you have about yourself, any animosity or victimization that you have pent up within yourself. I want you to acknowledge that, because you have to feel it, and then read through it and release it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, for those of you who are just tuning in or listening, we're talking to the author, John Collins, on his self-published book, God Ain't Call Me Fag. Pretty interesting title there. Like, it always gets me because it's just like, you can't get away from that. It's just right there in your face, and I love that. Because people call us a lot of things.
Yes.
And we never ask ourselves, well, what do God think?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't ask that. And I think you have reached... I think you've reached a place where you have really been set free from people. A lot of people haven't reached that place. What was that experience like for you?
Eye-opening. When I realized just how dependent I was on getting a word from God. We tie a word from God into every single thing that we do. When I got rid of that mindset and realized, you know, God has been talking to me all my life. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
say that again.
God has been talking to me all my life.
Love it.
You know, the voices, those external voices are, they're bigger than that small voice, that small still voice that we hear about in church every Sunday. You know, those voices are bigger, so we kind of gravitate towards those voices because we want to fit in. So for me, when I realized, oh my God, like, I'm cool being who I am. You know, God doesn't have an issue with me. Whenever I have a conversation with God, it's never been, you know, oh, you know you're wrong for that. Whenever I've slept with the guy, it's never been, you know, any type of beating over the head, you know, after that act. You know what I'm saying? So I just focused on, you know, who I am, you know, why am I this way? So that's what I began to focus on. Why am I gay, and what can I use that for to help other brothers?
Oh, you know, that's good. That's good. So give us a brief synopsis. I know you said we're going to get some different elements here. Give us a brief synopsis of this book. They're already asking me and telling me that this needs to be on a Brazilian air reading list. Shout out to Brazilian list. And they also got a question that I'm going to ask you a little later. Give us a brief synopsis of this book. So, how will you explain this to somebody that has never read it?
Has never read it. Let's see. So, this is okay. So I have this is my fourth book. So I've written 3 others before this: Virgin to the Life, Sounds of Burned Silence, and Poetic Violence. That's a series. So this is a departure from the series. So this is really me. If you think back to, let's say, Essex Hempfield and Joseph Beam, they came up. Have you ever heard of Tongues Untied? That was an anthology that Joseph Beam did. This kind of speaks to that. So he was who Essex Hempfield was. He was an HIV/AIDS activist during the early '80s when the epidemic first happened. One of the first people to speak up for the black community. And so this brother came up with Tongues Untied, and he kind of spoke about what the black gay experience was like during the '80s and during the AIDS epidemic when it first happened. This speaks to it kind of mirrors that a little bit. It speaks to everything that we go through.
Right.
So I've written it in a journal style approach. So it's not chapter based. It's just entries of whatever I'm feeling at that particular entry.
Right.
I just write about. So it's poetry. It's prose.
I love that. That's different. Okay, so you get to touch different people in different ways by doing that. You know, because some people are poetic and they like to get the rhythmic feel of story, and somebody else may like the storytelling feel of story. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you throw a parable in there. I don't know.
I do it all. Everything's in there.
Okay, well that's dope.
Kind of like how the Bible's written.
Yes, pretty much. Yes. I keep telling people, I say, if you don't read the Bible is interesting, y'all. Like I be reading it, like it be some shady stuff going on in that Bible. I be like, who slept with who? And why didn't he kill him for that? Like it'd be some shady stuff. So if y'all ain't reading these Bible stories, y'all better go. It ain't all just about knowing the flood. Right. You gotta go deeper. I'm telling y'all. But look, we're gonna go ahead and take a little quick break. But when we come back, we're gonna dive deeper into the life of John Collins. Yes, that's him. You're looking right at him if you're on this live. If you're listening to me, make sure you tell a friend and tell a friend of a friend that we're here for one more hour so you can call us in. You can call in. I'm going to post the number when we come back after this. All right? Stay tuned to Grind Time, baby. Let's go. I got my girl Brandy coming up. Full moon. Shout out to all my Brandy fans.